Hello, folks. Welcome back to another edition of SHU Outdoors. My name is Mick. I'm your host, and today we're going to do a deep dive on Michael Thompson, the ex-Aryan Brotherhood member who dropped out, couldn't make the cut, and was more than likely put in the hat by the AB, the original brand out of California, also established in the federal prison system. Now, one thing about the brand, you got to give the devil their due. Those dudes are real hardcore gangsters. They're the real deal. And you will never hear an interview from the brand, an active member. The only interviews you will hear is guys like Michael Thompson or Casper the Unfriendly Ghost who spin their own tale. But you will never hear an active member of the brand give an interview. T.D. Bingham never gave an interview all the years that he was in ADX. Barry Mills, the Baron, never gave an interview the whole time that he was in ADX Florence, locked down for 20 plus years. Tommy Silverstein, he did 40 years in the hole, never gave an interview. Yeah, he was trying to get out of the hole, and he had a legal team helping him trying to get out of the hole, and he wrote letters to the judge expressing his remorse for what he had did to land him in the hole for 40 years, but he never did, quote-unquote, an outright interview with a media source. All the written words that he has that are public was written to a court. Not anything dishonorable, trying to tell on people, anything like that. He was just explaining to the judge how he made a mistake, and if he could go back in time, he would never do such a thing again. Okay, so I just want to put that in proper context. Active members of the brand, they don't do interviews. So the actual only interviews you get are creeps that couldn't make the cut, that dropped out, who spin their own tale to try to put themselves in the best light. I would imagine that Michael Thompson, if the true story was to come out of actual brand members who never dropped out, who kept it real into the last day of their life, told the real story, he was in the hat. What that means for people who don't understand prison terminology, he had a hit put out on him. He probably caught word of the hit and said, hey, I better get out of here while I can. Then he figured out a way to spin it to make it look like he was actually the good guy standing up for what was right, and these brand members were the horrible bad guys. But we'll never really know the truth because the only version we have is his version. No active brand member has ever and probably will never give an interview to set the record truly straight. Again, you got to give the Aryan Brotherhood their due. Those dudes are real hardcore gangsters. They're the real deal, and they don't do interviews. Active members of the brand don't do interviews. The only interviews ever available to the public are from these dropouts who couldn't make the cut, more than likely had a green light put on them or were put into the hat. Both of those terms mean the same thing in prison terminology. So let's do a deep dive on Michael Thompson, the ex-Aryan Brotherhood gang member who couldn't make the cut for whatever reason. To hear him tell it, it was all for noble causes. But I don't think that's actually the truth. The truth is he was convicted of 2 murders. 2 murders. He went to California State Prison, became a member of the Aryan Brotherhood, dropped out of the Aryan Brotherhood, spilled the beans, told everything he knew, debriefed in the maximum degree, did about 20-something years in protective custody. So right there, he's a double murderer and a rat who couldn't make the cut. Let's call this guy what he is. Let's don't mince words. Let's don't put him on some pedestal. He's a double murderer. And I'm imagining that's not the only crimes he committed. Well, we know for a fact he's a double murderer who joined a notorious prison gang, the Brand, the original Aryan Brotherhood out of California. He couldn't toe the line. He dropped out, debriefed, told everything he knew on everybody he knew anything to tell on. Spent 20 plus years in a protective custody yard in the state of California. And I'm sure his life was at risk many times. And I'm sure several attempts on his life was made. This goes to show you how well the state of California is willing to hide and protect higher power informants. Okay? Keep that in mind as this story unravels. He gets out of prison. He cashes in on his notoriety, does interview after interview after interview. He turns his life of crime and his dirty rat ways into being a celebrity. Then he gets a job as a life coach. I wouldn't want this guy coaching me on any aspects of my life. I'm sure other people did, though, because, you know, with all due respect, a lot of people are pretty gullible. Becomes a life coach, and then proceeds to steal over $400,000 from the state of California and its taxpayers. He went to trial in 2025, was found guilty of fraud and embezzlement, and then on January the 14th, 2026, he appeared in Lake County, California Superior Court and was sentenced. Now, I did a deep dive exactly what the sentence was, and for a brief moment, I got a blurb where he was sentenced to 8 years. And then everything was wiped clean. There is no record from Lake County Superior Court in the state of California what his actual sentence was. Now, I am a betting man, and I'd be willing to bet that he was sentenced to a prison term, and the court ordered that he be held out of state under an assumed name. Yeah, of course they can do that. You got high-powered rats. They need to be protected while they're in prison. They have a price on their head. So I would imagine he's in Arizona or maybe Montana. Who knows where the state of California farmed him out to, because states do that and the federal system does that. So he's probably sitting in a jail cell, probably in a low or medium, maybe a max, who knows, under an assumed name in a different state, in the court sealed or sentencing documents. So nobody will know where he's at. Because the court, I'm sure him or his lawyer, he represented himself in the 2025 fraud case. That doesn't mean that he didn't have a lawyer standing in as counsel. Just because you represent yourself doesn't mean you can't have a lawyer standing in as counsel to direct you on certain procedural necessities. I'm quite the pro se litigant myself. So I would imagine that he's sitting in a jail cell right now under an assumed name in a different state where nobody can get to him. He's basically in a black site somewhere doing his time. I would imagine he's definitely back in prison, okay? If he was on the street, he'd be doing interviews trying to make money off of it. The guy is not an honorable guy. Again, let's look at his true history. Double murderer, became a member of the Aryan Brotherhood, couldn't make the cut, dropped out, told everything he knew on everybody he knew anything to tell anything on, eventually was released from prison, and that's no small feat when you got double murder in the state of California. You got to see a psychologist. He conned them, went to the parole board. They let him go only because he had all kind of people recommending he be getting out, probably the California Sheriff's Association, California Gang Intelligence Association, etc., etc., etc. The parole board recommended he be released, and Governor Newsom signed off on it, because in California, when you have a life sentence, the governor of the state has to sign off on your release no matter what the parole board recommends or the psychiatrist recommends. The governor has to sign off on your release. He gets out of prison, and instead of actually being an upstanding life coach, he becomes, his true colors shine through. He proceeds to embezzle over $400,000 from the taxpayers of the state of California. He gets found guilty in 2025. His sentencing date was set for sure. He went to court in Lake County Supreme Court in the state of California, January the 14th, 2026. I reported on that in an earlier video. And then the record goes blank. All right. Now, make no mistake, a state or a federal judge can order, under extenuating circumstances, you be farmed out to another correctional institution in another state under an assumed name for high-powered informants. And if this guy ain't a high-powered informant, I don't know who is. This guy is not a good guy. He shouldn't be held up as a martyr or somebody that saw the error of his ways and tried to do the right thing. No, the guy's a double murderer. Became a member of one of the most became a member of one of the most notorious prison gangs in the California system and probably the whole United States. Couldn't make the cut, dropped out, told on everybody he knew, spent 20 plus years in protective custody, got out of prison, conned them into letting him out of prison, got out, went to work for a company as a life coach, and then proceeded to embezzle over $400,000 in taxpayer funds. Not only is the guy not a sincere, rehabilitated ex-criminal, the guy's an outright creep, a murderer, a thief, and a rat. That's who the guy is. So I'm tired of seeing all these interviews where he's talking about how noble he is and how he's just trying to do the right thing and how he realized the error of his ways. No, the guy's a con man. He's no good. And that's my take on it. Other people may have a different take. But I just call it the way I see it. If ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox News, if these organizations and these companies can report on the facts, I can report on the facts as I see them. And that's just the way I see things. During the course of SHU Outdoors, I don't like to just report on things that I know will get thousands of views. Probably like this video. I also report on other things that are prison related, ex-convict related, and how the federal government goes out of their way to create psyops. For you guys who don't know, I did 14 years in the New York State prison system. Been through Rikers Island, Attica, Sing Sing, just to name a few New York State prisons. And I also did 10 years at the highest level of the federal system. 10 years, 9+ years on a 10-year sentence, all in United States Penitentiary. Caught a violation and the feds sent me to FCI Miami. I did a video on it. So I won't waste any more of your time today. I just want to set the record straight. Michael Thompson, the ex-Aryan Brotherhood gang member Dropout, is a creep. He's not a good guy. He's not a decent person. He didn't learn from his mistakes. The guy's still a criminal, still up to no good. And I have no doubt that he's in a prison cell somewhere under an assumed name, probably not in the state of California. because the prisons, the courts, and the California prison system knows what will happen if he went back into the state of California under his real name. Because unlike when he was doing his time and dropped out, so he probably didn't have to go to Pelican Bay and be slammed down with the rest of the brand members, now all those brand members are out of Pelican Bay. Most of them are walking active yards, and they have a whole lot of people who would love nothing more than be able to get Michael Thompson. It'd be a huge feather right in their cap. So he's under an, I'd be willing to bet just about anything. He's under an assumed name in another state, locked down in some super cheese factory, a super rat prison where they sell high-powered rats. He'll do his time relatively quietly. Probably nobody will ever know. Then he'll resurface, try to write another book about it, try to make tens of thousands of other dollars off of being just a creepball, no good scumbag. I got no respect for the guy. Some people may, take issue with that. That's their problem, not mine. I call it the way I see it. So until next time, stay up, stay at 'em. Peace, and you can count on me to do the hard reporting, tell it like it is, from my point of view. If you agree, give me a thumbs up, like, subscribe. Let's get SHU Outdoors up and pumping, up and Cadillacing, okay? So until next time, peace.